This meeting is being live streamed. By staying in this meeting, you are consent. Okay.
Tim?
It's interesting. Let me see.
There you are.
Okay. All right. Can you see me?
Um, yes, I can.
Okay, great. Well, welcome to our episode of Connecting the Community. We are here joined today with Miss Carolyn Rhodes. Miss Carolyn Rhodes. Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us here on Connecting the Community. You are the expert. You are the guru on HR, DEI work. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what kind of work that you do.
Well, nice to see you, Tim. You're looking lovely on the outside. Um,
Appreciate it.
yeah, can't wait to get out there today. I'm Carolyn Rose, and my work, I am a DEI consultant,
Okay.
and I work alongside senior leaders, specifically CEOs, to help them transform their organizations. So, what that really
Okay.
means from a DEI standpoint, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so,
Mm-hmm.
basically, what my work entails is more strategic planning around
Okay.
DEI, organizational development, helping implement, plan, and implement those initiatives. And I do a little
Okay.
executive coaching.
Okay. Okay. So you have your arms around a lot of different facets of the DEI community and the work and everything that you do. And I really appreciate you taking the time out to come and share with us, share some of your knowledge and expertise.
No problem.
So I want to jump right on in. Now, just in terms of the context, in terms of where we are, we're society. We're kind of coming out of this kind of COVID kind of post-COVID phase that we're in now, and we've seen a lot of things in terms of people working from home and organizations having to shift, because of COVID. But now it looks like the country is just trying to, opening back up, and people are kind of transitioning back into work. What have you seen, in terms of the landscape, in terms of employees, or what advice do you have for folks as they go back into the workplace?
Yeah, so I think there's so many layers to this, Tim.
Hmm. Hmm.
One, you have companies that are still trying to figure out what does working from home look like. You
Hmm.
also
Hmm.
have like how are they going to manage their employees? How are they actually going to pay for an empty building with no employees
Right.
in there, right?
That's exactly
Um,
right.
how are they going to balance what we have traditionally known as work-life balance when people have been
Hmm.
working at home?
Hmm.
And for employees, what is the trend that is happening is that, well, we've been in this pandemic or several pandemics for over a year and a half, and
Hmm.
employees are like, now I really understand that I can do my work and I can do
Right.
it at home and
Right.
still have flexibility to be with my family or just to be independent pretty much
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
having to be in the office. So employees are really challenging companies now um,
Mm.
to
Mm.
to work on their work from home policies and then to also prove that their work can't be done outside of the workplace.
That's
Um,
good. That's
and
good.
and I think there's so many layers to this because in my research and my reading, Tim, what I'm seeing or hearing is that you know these a lot of large companies are saying we want you back in the workforce, like we
Right.
back
Right.
into the office. And a
Yep.
lot of that you see in more federal government agencies,
Hmm.
where very traditional, very bureaucratic model, and employees have to make that decision. They have to make
Yeah.
that decision of whether or not this organization or this company is for them now at this stage in their careers, or
Mm-hmm.
whether or not they need to resign and say this is not the best fit.
Mm. Right, right. You bring up a number of of points and ideas, not only from the side of the employee transitioning back, but you also mentioned the organizations themselves, having to kind of revisit, their policies around coming in, traditionally, updating their policies, procedures, and it's a different, kind of operational structure, having to be a little bit more flexible with their team and with their employees. What advice do you have for organizations on that side in terms of welcoming their employees and their staff, back into the work setting or being flexible? What advice do you have for organizations and leadership?
Yeah. So I think that's a really good question, Tim. And I think there's so many pieces of that. I think that leaders should take a stance on their work from home policies, right? Or
Okay.
is the organization, how does the organization look now? Or are we going to transform it into more of a 21st century organization?
Okay. Okay.
And so I think that leaders have to make that decision for themselves and what's best for the organization. Um,
Mm-hmm.
as far as policies and procedures, I'm not going to say procedures, but policies
Okay. Okay. Policies. Okay.
for work from home. I want to say this is not new. Work from
Okay.
home has been in existence for many, many, many years. It's just
Okay.
that now it's affecting the entire world, right?
Right.
And
Right. Right. Right.
so work from home policies need to reflect, in organizations, what does it look like for certain roles? Whether or not we're going to have a hybrid workplace or not, whether or not we're going to allow you or not allow, but come into the office, 2 days out the week, a certain number of hours, or whether or not you can just permanently work from home. And I think it's up to the organization. It's
Okay.
up to leaders on that. Certain companies can't allow work from home because certain roles don't require
Right.
that. If you're in the
That makes sense.
manufacturing industry, you can't really work from home.
Mm.
But if have an office or an office role, then you can work from home. I think
Okay.
it brings up another thing around when technology. We've been pushed into this world of technology, right?
And so here we are.
Yes,
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And companies, and that's the stroke. That's the hard part. Companies haven't really kept up with technology. So now this is not just about working from home policy. This is about what is your internet and your benefits that you can offer to employees to have high speed, or not high speed, but
Mm-hmm.
best
Mm-hmm.
Wi-Fi, or
Yeah.
a computer, and all the tools and resources they need to be productive at home.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think that if you're going to write work from home policies, or establish them, that they need to definitely also not just write the process around the policy, but
Mm-hmm.
also what are the benefits added to the employee.
Okay. You make a good point. What are the benefits? Because a lot of times I've heard you say in the past, and a lot of your posts and writings, being able to kind of connect the benefit, being able to connect the policies and how it's going to actually benefit the employee, what's important to them. How do organizations make that connection between what we're doing in the organization and what's important to the employee?
Yeah, that's all these questions, Tim, are good.
Hey, I'm doing a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what's important to say here on that is that there's no one size fit all approach. So
Okay.
what is
Okay.
working for, or what may work for one organization is not going to work for another.
Okay.
Because you have different employees, you have different leadership, you have a different style of learning,
Hmm.
whatever it to be. And what I actually help organizations do is like, let's really start being engaged with our employees, whether or not that's
Okay.
an organizational survey, whether or not those are look like open-ended questions on surveys, not just a
Hmm.
scale from 1 to 10, because you don't really
Hmm.
get
Hmm.
the meat and potatoes of what employees are saying. And
Right.
let's take what employees are saying and also what leaders are wanting and try to marry the two. And
Connecting the two. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. It also, just kind of brings to mind this kind of, and I've been hearing the term a lot, in a lot of different circles in terms of like respectability. Talk to
mm,
me about what does respectability mean?
uh, Tim, you're putting me on the spot. So respectability is, yeah, it is a what I would call a colloquial term right
Hmm.
now, and
Hmm.
being used a lot. But respectability just really means the respect that you have for yourself, right?
Mm. Hmm.
And how do you see yourself? Right?
Respectability is, yeah, it is a. I'm sorry. What I would. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. The respect
That's
that you have for yourself. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you have that for yourself, and how is it that you can use that respect for that you have
Hmm.
for yourself to transform the organization that you're working in, or whether or not
Okay.
you don't transform the organization that you're working in. So
Hmm.
it's about, do you respect yourself enough to sit back and let bad behaviors happen in the workplace,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Mm.
I was
Yeah.
just doing this to a client of mine, that what you ignore, you condone.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
if
That's
you
good.
have respect for yourself, right, and you know yourself a little bit more, are you really going to be in an environment that have bad behaviors, are really not transformative organizations,
Yeah.
and because whether or not you'll be able to grow. And so respectability can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But when it's in the
Yeah.
workplace, it is about how do you hold people accountable for their actions,
Okay.
for their policies,
Mm.
and,
That's
and,
good.
and your role within that organization. How do you respect
Hmm.
yourself? So I think there's a lot of different layers, and I think once you define that for yourself, then you're
Hmm.
able to make the right and the most personal decision that you need to make for yourself. It might
Right.
mean that I can't work in these corporate spaces. It might mean
Yeah.
I can't work for this organization. I might want to branch out and
Hmm.
start a business, or I might want
Right.
to work for an organization that values me,
Hmm.
for my work.
That's good. That's good. It sounds like it's, kind of gaining appreciation and respect, for myself, that I am valued. What the things that matter to me as an employee, it matters. And I need to, speak up for that, on my own behalf, with that, inside of the organization, and just kind of advocating for myself. That's really good.
Yeah, and I think, when we talk about employees and advocating for themselves, I think that we should never, employees should never see themselves as less than, no matter what role that you play,
Hmm.
because your voice
And
matters.
just kind of,
And, and
that's right.
I think that having, whether or not you are attending um, certain meetings or certain groups that you may be a part of, I think that's important, because
Hmm.
the voices and the more diversity that's out there, hopefully more changes will be able to be made. But a lot of times, what I've seen in workplaces, that employees say, that really doesn't concern me, or I have
Right.
no voice, and that's where respectability comes in. You do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's good. That's really good. That's really
Yeah.
good. Um, So, let's pivot, for a moment, and I want to, talk about, your work that you do in the DEI space. DEI, I'm seeing it on every post, on everything, especially across LinkedIn, and a lot of organizations are engaging in the work. A lot of people are engaging in the work. But from your vantage point, what are some of the things that you have seen, in terms of your work? Share some of the experiences in terms of your work in the DEI space.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, DEI has been around since the 90s. Well, for me, in the 90s, when I
Yeah.
started out into HR. And I think that, and this is no indictment to anyone in the HR industry or that
Hmm.
profession, is still close to my heart. But what has happened is that companies were scaling so fast,
Okay.
that they forgot what diversity, equity, and inclusion look like, right? And
Okay.
what that
Okay.
actually entails.
Okay.
Because when I started in HR, it was diversity, equity, and inclusion, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
so, how do we make equitable, the organization equitable, or how do we diversify the people that we bring in? How do we
Hmm.
make our policies and practices consistent and transformative across the organization? And how do we embed all of that into the organization from leadership on down to
Okay.
the employee? So I
Okay.
would say, Tim, that a lot of this work really involves leadership, change.
Okay.
And we hear this all the time that, change can't happen unless it starts with leadership. And
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so really taking, my work is rooted in working with senior leaders and specifically CEOs and some CHROs, Chief Human Resources Officer, and really just having a dialogue about what
Okay.
it is they think they need. Um,
Mm, mm,
because a lot
mm-hmm.
of times what I'm seeing is that we have all these surface level initiatives, right? So now
Okay.
the world is on blast and everyone wants to diversify their
Right.
organization.
Yep.
And it becomes more of what I call tokenism, right? And then so it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, I want to hire a person of color. I don't want to fix anything else. I don't want to fix our
Mm-hmm.
organization. I don't want to fix our policies. I don't want to look at how people are promoted. I don't want to look
Mm-hmm.
at leadership positions and
Mm-hmm. Just checking the box.
checking the box. And we
Yeah.
got to get beyond, companies have to get beyond this checking
Mm,
the box and these surface level initiatives. So my
yeah.
work is really rooted in having dialogue with senior leaders
Okay.
around, like, before we even get to hiring and promotion and talent and recruiting
Okay.
and all of those things, let's just have a meaningful conversation around
Mm-hmm.
how did you actually derive at the point that you thought you needed DEI in
Okay.
the workplace. And then that
Mm,
stems from another conversation and many more conversations. And so
mm.
what I've learned in this work is that it's more than just fixing the problem. There's
Mm-hmm.
also so many other things that senior leaders are wanting to do and to know. And so I always encourage people to kind of leaders to take a step back before you become reactionary.
Okay.
To
Okay.
really, to really just be focused on just other things of the
Mm-hmm.
strategy and how you want the organization to be in the 3 to 5 years or in the
Yeah.
next year, and to know that this is not an overnight
Overnight fix.
hot fix, right?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
going, and my clients have hired me one time for like 5 months, and then I just recently, and then we had a conversation, and he said, Carolyn, I think we're going to be together for years, and so
Yes.
it's
Yes.
about walking these leaders through um,
Mm-hmm.
what it is they think they need, and then what it is
That's
that they want.
that's good. Dealing with the leaders, dealing with the leadership, and their challenges. What have been some of the struggles? of the leaders that, that you've talked to, what are some of the struggles that they have early on, in terms of, oh, I want to do this, or I want to change and do this? What have been some of their pain points?
Yeah, well, their pain points are, I think that's very simplistic, is that they don't know what they want.
Oh,
Um,
that's good.
yeah,
And being honest about that.
yeah, yeah. So when people
That's
have,
good.
when organizations have reached out to me, they don't know what they want. They
Hmm.
they have some idea, but then they really don't know.
Mm,
And so it is my role to kind of walk them through.
yeah.
That's why I believe that talking, having dialogues and doing an assessment first
Mm-hmm.
may be the best solution before even going to any action items.
Yeah.
And then what I'm also seeing, Tim, the pain points is that small companies are trying to do what Microsoft does. And then,
Okay. Okay.
mid-sized companies are trying to do what Google does. And it
Right.
doesn't work, right?
Right. Right.
It's
Right. Right.
no size fit all. So what organizations, the small to mid-sized organizations, are wanting to do is saying, we want to focus more on programs. We don't really want to focus on whether or not we have enough Black people here or Asian
Mm-hmm.
American people here, or
Mm-hmm.
underrepresented groups here. We want to build programs that are going to be sustainable and equitable for a long period of time. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's the way to go. And if that includes reviewing our policies and procedures,
Mm-hmm.
not that includes what talent looks like in recruiting, but making this organization more transparent, um,
Okay. Okay.
and and also more diverse is really
Yeah.
where it all starts.
So if you think about like true transformation, let's say I have an organization. How does true transformation happen? Within the organization. What would you your advice, and how does that, from what you've seen and the work that you've done?
Again, I think true transformation, that's a hard one to answer. I think
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, transformation starts with the individual, and it
Okay.
starts with the leader of, I want to make a change. I see
Mm,
something wrong. Or I want something different. That's when
mm,
transformation happens. So no
yeah.
matter what I advise or consult, they're ready.
Mm,
And so, but from an organizational development view of it, bird's eye view of it, is that transformation starts from looking at every aspect of the organization.
okay.
And,
Okay.
and what that means is from policies and procedures to how many people we have in leadership. What does that
Mm-hmm.
look like from a diverse DEI standpoint? What does our processes look like for recruiting? What do our practices look like for
Mm-hmm.
recruiting? What is the language that we're using? What does our website look like? Is
Mm-hmm.
it
It
a
all has to
platform?
connect. Yeah.
It all has to connect in there. And then how do we embed it, and how we stay relevant to today,
Mm-hmm.
in this world. And so I think that's what transformation looked like. And even from, not just from a leadership standpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
Leadership can look like, I say leadership because that always tends to fall high on, with CEOs and people
Mm-hmm.
that have big titles. But
Mm-hmm.
leadership can be the individual, the administrative assistant, right? And so
Right. 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 Right.
really making sure and empowering and transforming every employee within the organization. Because if the
Okay.
leader is transformed, the employees are transformed. Um,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
can
Yeah. Yeah.
feel it,
That's
they can
good.
see it,
Yeah.
they
Yep.
know.
Yep.
And so when there's representation from a DEI
Mm-hmm.
standpoint of underrepresented people within leadership, and I'm just, maybe I'm starting out in my career and I see this diversity, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, this is
Yeah.
transformative. This is where I want to be. And
They can actually see it. They can actually see it
yeah,
happening in front of them,
yeah.
and it's real. That's good. That makes good sense. That makes good sense. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So I think, you shared so much good, information that I think is going to be very helpful to not only, employees, individuals, organizations, leadership. Um, what would you say, just to kind of, sum it up? What is it that Carolyn wants? In this whole space, what is it that Carolyn wants?
Oh God, Tim, I want a lot of stuff, right? Um, I want a lot of stuff, but in this space, I would
Hmm.
say I really want from the employer side, I
Okay.
really want employers to be honest and very
Mm.
transparent about
Okay.
what it is their organization is. You
Okay.
know, if it is saying, I don't want to have anything to do with DEI in this, say
Right.
that.
Being
Name,
honest with that.
be
Yes.
honest and saying that. And then from the employee side, um, I really want employees to have the courage to walk away when they
Mm.
know that all they have invested in a company or a corporate organization, um, they are not getting back that same level of investment.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
this is where we have respectability. This is
Yeah.
when we have to kind of look and say, this just not working out, and I need to
Mhm.
take a chance on me. And I
Mm. That's
want
good.
employees to be honest about themselves and create a pathway to move away from systems and structures that are not designed for them.
Mm. Mm. That is golden. That is golden. That's really good. Yes, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So much great information, so much great information and content that you shared. And I really, really appreciate your time, Carolyn. And
Oh, thank
I
you.
definitely want to have you back
Oh,
on connecting the community, because I
absolutely.
am sure the world is going to shift again, and so
Yeah.
there'll be more information to continue to share. But thanks again, for your time and sharing, and we'll connect again soon. Okay,
Oh, Tim, thank you. And thank you for the work that you do and
I really
connecting the
appreciate it.
community and bringing awareness to the world. It's needed today. And we're so isolated, or
Mm.
feel like we're so isolated. And so I'm glad that you are helping bridge that gap. And so thank you for the work that you're doing.
I really appreciate it. Thank you
Yeah.
much.
Okay.
All right, you have
All
a
right.
good one. Okay.
I'll
All
talk to
right.
you later. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.